Now, India's Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft is inching closer to the surface of the moon. It's merely 3 days away from attempting a soft landing near the lunar south pole. If it is successful, India will only be the fourth nation to land a craft on the moon. Right now, the craft is mapping the dark side of the moon with its lander hazard detection and avoidance camera. This camera assists in locating a safe landing area without boulders or deep trenches. The images will be carefully studied to determine the perfect place to land the craft. These images were released by ISRO as well. Now, the Chandrayaan-3's second and final deboosting operation took place successfully on Sunday. The lander module is undergoing its routine internal checks. Once the internal tests are deemed successful, the craft will begin its powered descent on Wednesday. Back on Earth, the Indian Space Research Organization has begun the countdown for Chandrayaan-3 landing. Chandrayaan-3's landing is meticulously planned for the 23rd of August, which marks the start of the lunar day. As Chandrayaan-3's lunar lander payloads and experiments are solar powered, only a daytime landing would help charge its batteries and carry out the mission. Chandrayaan-3 is designed to work only for a single lunar day, that's about 2 weeks on Earth. Therefore, landing at the very start of the lunar day would give Chandrayaan the opportunity to use all of its 14 Earth Day mission life to the fullest. Within ISRO, now leaders within ISRO are confident that the Vikram lander will execute a feather-like soft landing. Dr. K. Rajiv, the director of Space Physics Laboratory, said the real fruit will come after the safe landing of Chandrayaan-3. He also said that the rover's payloads will help in knowing the kind of minerals present on the moon. There have been multiple missions to reach the dark side of the moon, but none of them have till now succeeded. Most recently, Russia's Lunar 25 mission, which was supposed to attempt a landing today, it spun into an uncontrollable orbit and crashed into the moon on Sunday. Earlier this year, Japan's iSpace's attempt to make the first private moon landing failed. Its Hakuto R lander unexpectedly accelerated and crashed on the lunar surface. Chandrayaan-3's predecessor, Chandrayaan-2, crashed while attempting a landing in September 2019. ISRO chairman S. Somnath said that the engines had developed high thrust while reducing its velocity before landing, which in turn compromised the Vikram lander's stability. And back in April 2019, the Israeli spacecraft attempted a soft touchdown but suffered technical problems as well and crashed on the moon's surface. This was Israel's first attempt to land on the moon. And now for more on this, WION senior correspondent Siddharth MP is joining us live. Thank you so much for joining us, Siddharth. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft, it's inching closer to the surface of the moon. We've seen some images that have come in as well. What can you tell us about this?
Yeah, expectations are very high. We're just 50 to 55 hours away from that iconic moment when India's Chandrayaan-3 lunar craft is expected to soft land near the south pole of the moon. The precise location is close to 70 degrees latitude of the moon. Let's remember the fact that this is India's second lunar landing attempt, and what we are looking forward to on Wednesday is a 19-minute operation, 19 minutes of very precise maneuvers that the craft will have to carry out. In 19 minutes, the craft will slow itself down by performing what is known as powered descent. So right now the craft is in a 25 kilometers by 134 kilometers orbit. We are talking about the Vikram lander. From that particular orbit, the Vikram lander is expected to perform a series of maneuvers which is similar to applying brakes in a very calculated fashion. And the spacecraft will gradually slow itself down, first on the horizontal axis and then on the vertical axis. So eventually the spacecraft, which starts off traveling like a plane or rather horizontally, will then start traveling like a vertically, and then will come to land like a helicopter. So we're looking at a drastic velocity reduction. At one point, the spacecraft is traveling at somewhere between 1.5 kilometers per second. And to the final moments, that is closer to the lunar landing, the craft will be brought down to a velocity of 1.5 meter per second. So this is the kind of drastic velocity reduction. It's almost 1,000th velocity reduction that's happening. So that is what we are looking forward to on Wednesday. And as you rightly pointed out, ISRO scientists are looking forward to what is being called a feather-like landing. This immense confidence that they have is derived from the fact that ISRO has done at least 2 to 3 years of refinement on Chandrayaan-2's lander. Several lessons have been learnt. Those lessons have been implemented to ensure that things go flawlessly this time around him.
Right, absolutely, Siddharth. Also, right now, the lander module, it's undergoing its routine internal checks, and once these tests are deemed successful, only then can the craft begin its powered descent. What can you tell us about these internal checks?
Yeah, as you rightly pointed out, the tests are currently going on. So these are some of the crucial tests of the equipment on board. There are certain reasons why the tests are conducted only in the last minute or perhaps in the run-up to this lunar landing. The reason is this, that these are equipment that are meant to operate, closer to the lunar orbit. These are velocimeters, these are altimeters, these are also hazard detection cameras, and there are also softwares and sensors that are supposed to work in tandem. So essentially only when it reaches a very nearby altitude, that is currently the craft at its closest approach is in a 25-kilometer altitude above the moon. So this is the ideal time to test this equipment, because the lunar south pole is sort of a hazardous terrain. It's unexplored, and at the same time this is a region that has deep craters. At the same time this is also a region that has mountains that are at least 2 kilometers in height. So it is very crucial that all these equipment are fine-tuned and calibrated to their best possible levels, so that a landing spot can be precisely identified as per Chandrayaan-3's onboard maps. Already it has been fed in maps about its prospective landing sites, and in accordance with that, the cameras will be able to spot these particular locations, and then it will be able to zero in on the landing. So this is why these tests are crucial. All systems have to be working flawlessly, and this is something that ISRO has learned from last time, and that is why such meticulous in-orbit testing is being carried out, despite the fact that there's at least 55 hours to go for that lunar landing moment.
All right. Well, Siddharth, thank you so much for bringing us the latest on this. We will, of course, continue to track this journey very closely. Thank you so much for bringing us such detailed reports on the same. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.